The night shift begins the way it always does, without ceremony. Lights hum softly above the corridor. The smell of antiseptic hangs in the air, sharp but familiar. Somewhere down the hall, a monitor beeps at a steady pace, a sound so constant it fades into the background of the building's breathing. She adjusts her badge as she steps onto the floor. Registered nurse. Last name printed in clean black letters. Nothing else. No one looks up when she passes the desk. The charge nurse is busy arguing with the day shift about incomplete charts. A resident scrolls through lab results, half asleep, coffee untouched. Security leans against the wall near the elevators, posture loose, attention divided between his phone and the doors. She takes report without interruption. Listens more than she speaks. Asks only what is necessary. Room 312, post-op, stable. Room 318, confused, needs observation. Room 327, transfer pending, paperwork incomplete. She nods once. Commits it all to memory. Her movements are unhurried as she walks the hall. Not slow, efficient. Every step placed with intention, though no one would describe it that way. To anyone watching, she is just another night nurse starting another long shift. She checks a door as she passes. Locked. Checks the wall clock. 2 minutes fast. She notes it without reacting. Inside room 312, the patient is asleep. She doesn't wake him. Adjusts the 4-line with practiced hands, fingers light, precise. She glances at the monitor, not just the numbers, but the rhythm. Confirms what she already knows. Stable. In the hallway, a gurney rolls by, pushed by an orderly she does not recognize. That registers. New faces always do. She watches until it turns the corner, then continues on. At the nurse's station, a junior nurse complains quietly about the workload. About being short-staffed. About how administration never listens. The words wash past her. She updates the board. Writes clearly. No wasted motion. A physician passes, brisk, distracted. Nearly collides with her. He mutters an apology without stopping. She steps aside easily, creating space, eyes already moving back to the corridor. The hospital feels normal. That is what troubles her. Normal does not mean safe. It only means nothing has gone wrong yet. She pours herself water, not coffee. Drinks half, then sets the cup down exactly where it will not be knocked over. Her gaze drifts to the security monitor mounted high on the wall. 4 camera feeds. Elevator lobby. Ambulance bay. Main entrance. East stairwell. The east stairwell door opens, then closes again. She keeps her face neutral. A call light flashes. Room 318. She answers it promptly. The patient is awake now, agitated. Asking questions that don't have answers. She listens patiently, lowers her voice, grounds him in simple facts. Where he is. What time it is. What will happen next. Her tone is calm, measured, impossible to rush. It works. When she leaves the room, the call light goes dark. She pauses just long enough to ensure the door latches fully before moving on. At the far end of the hall, maintenance wheels a cart past a restricted door. He swipes his badge twice before it opens. The delay is minor. Almost nothing. She notices anyway. Back at the station, the charge nurse hands her an updated patient list. They added a late transfer, she says, already turning away. No details yet. What room? She asks. Pending. She nods. No follow-up. No visible concern. But inside, pieces begin to align. Late transfers at night are rare. Unscheduled ones more so. Federal agencies prefer early mornings or controlled environments. If this is neither, then something has gone wrong upstream. She does not speculate. She waits. Her hands rest on the counter, relaxed. Her posture is easy. Anyone looking would see a tired professional settling into another long night. No one would see the quiet inventory she is taking. The exits. The staff. The timing. No one would guess that this building, this floor, this ordinary shift, is already being measured for containment. Down the hall, an elevator dings. Voices spill out, firm, unfamiliar, carrying a sense of urgency that does not belong in a hospital at this hour. She looks up for the first time in several minutes. And then she steps aside, making room, just like everyone expects her to. The voices move past her without slowing. Two men, mid-40s, jackets unzipped but badges visible. Not hospital security. Not local police. Their shoes are wrong for a clinical floor, hard soles, built for streets, not silence. They walk with purpose but without coordination, like they were dropped into the space rather than trained inside it. They do not look at her. She watches them disappear toward the elevators, then returns her attention to the chart in her hands. Her pulse does not change. Her expression stays neutral. At the nurse's station, the charge nurse exhales sharply. Did anyone page admin? She asks no one in particular. Because I didn't approve any agency presence tonight. No one answers. A clerk shrugs. Maybe risk management? Maybe, the charge nurse says, already irritated. They always forget to tell us. The nurse says nothing. She updates a medication schedule, her handwriting steady. But her mind is moving again, slower now, more deliberate. Federal presence without hospital coordination is not protocol. It is a contingency. She checks the transfer board. The pending room is still blank. No name. No arrival time. That is the second warning. The third comes quietly. A medication delivery arrives late. 15 minutes behind schedule. The pharmacy tech apologizes, blames a system lag. She thanks him and scans the seal herself. It is intact. Still, she notes the delay and the explanation. System lags rarely affect only one delivery. She walks the corridor again, this time slower, stopping to speak briefly with each patient. Reassuring. Normal. No one senses anything wrong. At the far end of the hall, she pauses near the stairwell door. Listens. Nothing. She presses her palm lightly against the door anyway. Feels the vibration of movement below. Footsteps, controlled, ascending but not rushing. Not staff. She steps away before the door opens. Back at the station, one of the residents lowers his voice. Security just asked me about room 327, he says. But there's no patient there yet. Asked what? The charge nurse replies. He hesitates. About isolation readiness. The nurse looks up now. Just briefly. Isolation requires preparation. Clearance. Equipment staged in advance. None of that has happened. Who asked? She says. The resident gestures vaguely. One of the guys with the badges. She nods once and returns to her chart. No reaction. No visible concern. But her internal assessment sharpens. If they are asking clinical staff procedural questions, it means they are already behind. She walks to the supply room under the pretense of restocking. Inside, she checks the emergency cabinet. Seals intact. Equipment present. She adjusts one item slightly, aligning it with muscle memory rather than inventory list. On her way out, she catches a reflection in the glass, one of the badge-carrying men standing at the end of the hall, speaking into an earpiece. His shoulders are tight. His jaw clenched. He is not in control. Her pager vibrates. A short alert. Administrative code, internal. Not meant for bedside staff. That is the fourth warning. She does not acknowledge it. Lets it clear on its own. If it repeats, she will act. If it does not, she will continue to wait. Waiting is not passive. It is discipline. The elevators open again. More voices. More urgency. A gurney is wheeled out, empty, pushed too fast. One of the agents snaps at a hospital orderly to clear the corridor. The orderly looks to her instinctively, as if for permission. She meets his eyes and gives a small nod. Calm. Reassuring. He moves aside. The agent barely notices. She steps back into the shadow of the station, reducing her presence. Watches the agents cluster near the elevators, arguing quietly. Words drift across the hall. Not the right floor. Should have secured intake. Timelines off. They are reacting, not directing. A phone rings. The charge nurse answers, listens, then frowns. They're saying the transfer's already in the building, she says after hanging up. But no one logged him. No one logged him. That is not a mistake. That is a failure. The nurse closes her chart and places it neatly on the counter. Her hands rest there for a moment longer than necessary. When she speaks, her voice is even. Which entrance? The charge nurse blinks. What? The transfer, she says. Which entrance did they use? I don't know. She nods once. Then she turns her gaze back to the corridor, to the stairwell, to the places no one is watching closely enough. The crisis has not arrived yet. But it is inside the building. The ambulance bay doors open without sirens. That alone is enough to confirm it. She sees it on the security monitor before anyone announces it, headlights cutting through the concrete tunnel, a black transport vehicle instead of a standard rig. No hospital markings. No flashing lights. It rolls to a stop just outside camera range, deliberate, careful. The charge nurse is still on the phone, voice tight. No, we don't have him logged. I don't care what your system says. The nurse steps closer to the monitor, pretending to adjust the angle. Her eyes track the feed. 2 men exit the vehicle. Then a third. They move with efficiency, not speed. The doors close behind them. The feed cuts. She exhales through her nose, slow and controlled. Someone has overridden the camera loop. A moment later, the elevators ding again. This time, they do not open. One of the agents presses the call button twice, impatient. We're burning time, he mutters. The hospital does not respond to impatience. It responds to procedure. When those procedures are disrupted, the building becomes unpredictable. Who authorized the shutdown? The charge nurse asks, covering the phone. No one answers. The stairwell door opens. A stretcher comes through first, pushed by 2 men in dark jackets. Between them lies a patient, male, late 30s, oxygen mask in place, wrists restrained beneath the blanket. His eyes are open. Alert. Watching everything. Behind them walks a woman in a blazer, badge clipped high, posture rigid. She scans the floor once, then fixes her gaze on the nurse's station. Where's isolation? She asks, already moving. The charge nurse straightens. We need paperwork. We don't have time, the woman says. This is federal custody. The word lands heavy in the air. The nurse steps back, making herself smaller. She keeps her hands visible. Her eyes drop briefly to the patient's restraints, standard issue, hospital grade, not law enforcement. Applied hastily. The woman's gaze flicks to her. She says. Which room is prepped? None yet, the charge nurse answers quickly. We weren't notified. The woman's jaw tightens. She looks at the agents flanking the stretcher. I told you intake needed to be secured. One of them shrugs. We were cleared. Cleared by whom is left unsaid. The patient coughs beneath the mask. It is controlled. Intentional. He is testing his airway. The nurse notes the angle of his head, the tension in his shoulders. He is not sedated. He is conserving energy. Room 327 is empty, the charge nurse offers. We can. No, the woman snaps. Too exposed. Her eyes move again, scanning. They pass over the nurse and slide away. Good. 318, one of the agents says. End of the hall. That room is occupied, the nurse says quietly, before she can stop herself. Every head turns. The woman looks at her directly now. Studies her face, her badge. We'll move the patient. He's disoriented, the nurse replies, calm, factual. Moving him without prep will escalate. The agent scoffs. We don't need a lecture. She nods once and steps back, yielding. She has said enough. The intervention was necessary, but minimal. Any more would draw attention. The woman hesitates. Just a fraction. Then she waves a hand. Clear 327. The agents push the stretcher forward. As they pass, the patient's eyes meet the nurse's. There is no fear there. Only assessment. He looks at her the way professionals look at obstacles, measuring, calculating. She breaks eye contact first. The corridor fills with motion. Staff scramble to comply. Equipment is wheeled out. Doors open and close. The rhythm of the floor fractures under the sudden authority imposed from outside. The nurse moves with the rest, helping where asked, silent otherwise. She adjusts a privacy curtain. Retrieves gloves. Hands them over without comment. Inside, she counts. 2 agents at the door. 1 inside. 1 unaccounted for. Her pager vibrates again. Same administrative code. This time, it repeats. She steps into the supply alcove and acknowledges it with a single press. No message appears. Only a time stamp. They are tracking the same thing she is. When she returns, the woman in the blazer is arguing on the phone, voice low but sharp. No, I need confirmation. Now. The nurse stops beside the medication cart. Appears to check labels. Listens. If he moves again, we lose him. This location wasn't cleared. I know, but we're already compromised. Compromised. The patient is wheeled into room 327. The door closes. An agent takes position outside. The floor settles into a tense, artificial calm. The nurse resumes her place at the station, posture relaxed, expression neutral. To anyone watching, she is just another hospital employee adapting to chaos. But her internal map is complete now. The threat is contained in one room. The command structure is unstable. And the people who think they are in charge are already reacting too late. She waits. Because the moment they lose control, they will need someone who already has it. The first direct order comes without context. You, nurse, one of the agents says, stepping into her line of sight. He is tall, shoulders squared, voice practiced in command. I need you to pull the chart on the patient in 327. Full history. Now. She looks at him, then at the badge. Reads the name without reacting. Yes, she says. No hesitation. No resistance. She turns to the system terminal and logs in with steady hands. The screen loads slower than usual. Network congestion. Expected. Behind her, the agent shifts his weight, impatience barely contained. And stay close, he adds. We may need you. She nods again. Understood. The chart populates partially. Redacted fields. Gaps where there should be continuity. A patient who exists in fragments, deliberately obscured. That confirms the level of sensitivity more than any badge could. She scrolls once. Stops. This is all that's available, she says calmly. The agent leans in, scanning the screen. That can't be right. It is, she replies. Anything else would require administrative override. He exhales sharply and steps back. Figures. He walks away without dismissing her. She remains at the terminal, hands resting lightly on the counter, eyes on the screen but attention elsewhere. She listens to the cadence of footsteps. The opening and closing of doors. The low murmur of radios. A second agent approaches, younger, less composed. What meds is he on? He asks. She answers without looking up. Oxygen support only. No sedatives. No anticoagulants. That's going to change, he says. She turns to face him. If you sedate without clearance, you risk respiratory collapse. His vitals are compensating, but barely. He frowns. You a doctor now? No, she says. I'm the one who will have to manage the consequences. The agent studies her for a moment, then looks away. Just do your job. I am. He leaves. This time, she watches him go. Room 327 remains closed. The agent outside stands with his back to the wall, arms crossed, eyes fixed forward. He has chosen a position that looks authoritative but limits his field of view. She notes it. The woman in the blazer emerges from the room, phone still pressed to her ear. Her face is tight with controlled frustration. No, that's not acceptable, she says. We're already exposed. She ends the call and notices the nurse standing nearby. Why aren't you assigned? She asks. I'm covering the floor, the nurse replies. Short staff. The woman nods, distracted. Then cover it. Keep people away from that room. Yes, the nurse says. She does not ask how far away means. Instead, she begins to redirect traffic with small, reasonable requests. Suggests alternate routes. Offers to help patients back to their rooms. No one questions her. She is not issuing orders, she is solving problems. The agent at the door watches her with mild suspicion. You don't need to be here, he says. I'm assigned, she replies evenly. If something happens, you'll want clinical support immediately. He considers this, then looks away. Fine. But don't cross the line. She gives a small nod. I won't. Inside the room, raised voices break through the door. The patient speaks now, tone controlled, words indistinct. One of the agents responds sharply. The nurse shifts her weight slightly, positioning herself closer to the wall. Her posture remains relaxed, but her attention sharpens. Arguments inside a containment room are dangerous. They create momentum. Momentum leads to mistakes. The door opens abruptly. One of the agents steps out, agitated. He's refusing to cooperate, he says to the woman. He wants counsel. The woman's mouth tightens. He's not in a position to make demands. He knows that, the agent says. That's why he's making them. The nurse watches the exchange silently. The woman turns toward her. What's his status? Stable, the nurse replies. For now. The woman studies her again, longer this time. You're very calm. This is my floor, she says. Calm helps. The woman holds her gaze for a beat, then nods once. Stay available. Yes. As the woman turns away, the nurse catches a fragment of radio traffic from one of the agents. A location reference. A confirmation request. They are checking something that should already be confirmed. She steps to the medication cart and pretends to inventory supplies. Her fingers move automatically while her mind replays the words she heard. They are not aligned. Chain of command is fractured. Field agents are waiting on answers that are not coming fast enough. That delay will force a decision soon, likely a bad one. The patient's voice rises again behind the door. Controlled, deliberate. He is pushing them, testing boundaries. The nurse closes the medication drawer softly. First contact has been made. They have spoken to her. Questioned her. Issued orders. And dismissed her. Which means, when the situation turns, they will not see her coming. She remains where she is, visible, compliant, unthreatening. And ready. The shift does not announce itself. It begins with a small correction. Then another. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that draws attention. The nurse notices the agent at room 327 adjust his stance, favoring one leg. Fatigue or discomfort. Either way, his awareness narrows. She times her movements to his blind spots, never crossing his line of sight directly, never lingering long enough to invite a question. She speaks quietly to a respiratory therapist passing by. Use the west corridor for now, she says. They're moving equipment here. The therapist nods, grateful for clarity, and turns without argument. A housekeeping cart rattles toward the room. She intercepts it gently, one hand on the handle. Give it 5 minutes, she says. Patient transfer. The housekeeper hesitates, then smiles apologetically and backs away. 5 minutes buys space. At the nurse's station, she updates the board again, altering nothing critical, only adjusting flow. Patients who would normally be moved closer to the center are redirected outward. The corridor around 327 thins without anyone issuing an explicit order. Inside the room, the patient's voice drops. The argument ends. That is not resolution. That is calculation. Her pager vibrates a third time. This time, a message appears. Confirm location. Do not engage. She deletes it without reply. They already know where she is. What matters is how long she can keep this contained without triggering the next phase. The woman in the blazer steps out again, rubbing her temples. We need a secure consult room, she says to no one in particular. Somewhere off the floor. There isn't one, the charge nurse replies. Not without moving other patients. The woman exhales sharply. Her eyes scan the hall, then land on the nurse. Suggestions? The nurse considers the question for exactly 1 second. There's an unused imaging prep room 2 floors down. Solid doors. Limited access. That's not ideal, the woman says. No, the nurse agrees. But it's controllable. The woman studies her. How do you know about that room? I float, the nurse says simply. You learn the building. A beat passes. Then the woman nods. Clear it. The decision redirects momentum away from the floor. That is the point. As the agents begin coordinating the move, radios crackle with overlapping instructions. Confusion creeps in. The nurse moves through it, steady, grounding. She walks to the elevators and presses the call button, then disables it quietly with a maintenance key she signs out under her own name. Procedure allows it. No one questions her. When the agents arrive with the stretcher, she speaks calmly. Elevators delayed. Fire system reset. One of them swears under his breath. Of course it is. She gestures toward the stairwell. It's clear. It is. Because she made it so. They take the stairs, burdened by equipment, attention split. The patient watches everything, head tilted slightly, eyes sharp above the mask. As they pass her, he speaks for the first time directly to her. You're very efficient. She meets his gaze briefly. It's my job. His lips curve almost imperceptibly beneath the mask. Not a smile. Recognition. The stairwell door closes behind them. The floor exhales. But the crisis does not leave with them. It compresses. The nurse returns to the station and begins documenting. Every action logged. Every movement justified. She leaves no gaps. An agent remains behind, posted near the stairwell. He watches her now, openly. You seem to know your way around, he says. I work nights, she replies. Problems happen at night. He nods slowly. You ever think about doing something else? She looks up at him. No. Her answer is honest, if incomplete. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. Personal device. One message. Stand by. Window closing. She does not respond. The woman in the blazer returns, frustration etched deeper now. They're pushing back, she says quietly, more to herself than anyone else. We're out of alignment. The nurse closes her chart and looks at her. Then stop pushing. The woman blinks. What? Containment, the nurse says. Not compliance. You don't need him to cooperate. You need him stable. The woman studies her, something shifting behind her eyes. Who trained you? The nurse holds her gaze. Experience. A radio chirps. Urgent. The agent by the stairwell stiffens. They're not answering, he says. Commands dark. The woman's jaw tightens. That's not possible. But it is. The nurse steps back into her role, hands folding calmly. Then we wait. The woman looks at her, truly looks at her now. You're very comfortable with that. Yes, the nurse says quietly. I am. Because waiting is no longer a delay. From the stairwell, raised voices echo. The agents return, moving fast now, stretcher between them. The patient's head is lifted, eyes scanning, taking in the altered environment. He knows something changed. One of the agents speaks into his radio again, sharper this time. Command, respond. We are escalating. Nothing. The nurse steps aside to let them pass, then falls in behind them, not close enough to be questioned, not far enough to be excluded. The woman in the blazer walks beside the stretcher. We're moving you, she says to the patient. For your safety. The patient's eyes flick to the nurse. Is that true? He asks. The question is deliberate. A probe. She answers carefully. It's safer if you stay calm. He studies her for a long moment, then nods slightly. Understood. They reach the imaging corridor. The lights flicker. That should not happen. The nurse stops. Just for a second. Enough to confirm what her instincts already tell her. This corridor isn't secure, she says. The woman snaps, nothing is secure. Then stop moving, the nurse replies. The agent nearest them scoffs. You don't give orders. No, she agrees. I give warnings. The lights flicker again, then stabilize. From ahead, a voice echoes, unfamiliar, male, tense. Federal agents. Identify yourselves. The woman freezes. That voice is not on their team. The nurse feels the weight of the moment settle. Two uncoordinated forces inside a civilian hospital. No command oversight. No clean exits. This is how people get hurt. The agent raises his weapon instinctively, then hesitates. The corridor is too narrow. Too exposed. The nurse steps forward half a pace. Not to block. To ground. Lower it, she says quietly. The agent looks at her, incredulous. Stay in your lane. She does not move. If you raise that weapon, this becomes something you can't control. The woman's eyes dart between them. Stand down, she orders the agent. Not here. The weapon lowers. From the shadows ahead, footsteps approach. Two figures emerge, security contractors, not law enforcement, wearing mismatched gear. One of them looks nervous. This area is restricted, the woman says sharply. Who authorized you? The contractor hesitates. We were told to secure imaging. By someone upstairs. Someone upstairs who isn't answering radios. The nurse's phone vibrates again. One message. If they move again, you speak. She slips the phone back into her pocket. The patient exhales slowly. You people are not aligned, he says calmly. That's dangerous. The woman rounds on him. You don't get to. He's right, the nurse says. Silence falls. Every eye turns to her now. Not dismissive. Not casual. Evaluative. She continues, voice steady. You have multiple teams, no clear command, and civilians in every direction. Moving him again increases risk to everyone. The woman stares at her. And your solution? The nurse meets her gaze. Freeze. Secure this corridor. Clear non-essential personnel. Let the building stabilize. And if command never comes back? The nurse pauses. Just long enough to be honest. Then you need someone who can speak for them. The implication hangs in the air. The woman studies her face, searching for something. You're not just a nurse. No, the nurse says quietly. But right now, that's enough. Another radio chirp breaks the tension. Static. Then a partial transmission. Distorted. The agent leans in, straining to hear. The nurse does not. She already knows what comes next. Because escalation has reached its limit. The next step is choice. They hold the corridor. For now. Security contractors are pushed back with firm instructions. Doors are sealed manually. The imaging wing empties in stages, nurses and techs redirected without explanation. The hospital hum resumes elsewhere, unaware of how close it came to fracture. The woman in the blazer stands still, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the nurse. The question is no longer unspoken. Who are you really? She asks. The nurse does not answer immediately. She watches the patient instead. He is calmer now, breathing evenly, hands still restrained. He looks like a man waiting for confirmation, not rescue. I'm the one responsible for this floor, the nurse says finally. And right now, you're risking it. That's not an answer, the woman replies. It's the only one you need, the nurse says. The woman glances at the agents. They are no longer dismissive. They are watching the nurse closely now, measuring her words, her posture, the way she stands without tension. The woman lowers her voice. If you interfere again, I'll have you removed. The nurse nods. I understand. She means it. Her phone vibrates once more. No message this time. Just a single tone. A countdown. The patient speaks quietly. If they remove you, this collapses. The woman snaps, no one asked you. The nurse meets the patient's eyes briefly. He's not wrong. That costs her. The woman's expression hardens. Step back. Now. The nurse steps back. It is not surrender. It is calculation. She returns to the nurse's station under escort, her movements compliant, her demeanor unchanged. Staff glance at her with curiosity, some concern. She offers them nothing. At the station, the charge nurse whispers, "Are you okay?" "Yes," the nurse says. "Stay here." An agent stands close now. Too close. Watching her hands. Her phone. Waiting for a mistake. Minutes pass. Down the corridor, voices rise again. The patient is speaking louder now, pushing, testing. The woman responds sharply. Someone mentioned sedation. The nurse's jaw tightens. Sedation here would destabilize everything. The patient's condition. The environment. The fragile control holding the building together. Her phone vibrates. Last window. Your call. She closes her eyes for half a second. If she speaks now, there is no going back. Her cover, thin as it is, will be gone. The hospital will not forget. Neither will the bureau. Careers will bend. Some will break. If she stays silent, the situation will spiral beyond her reach. She stands. The agent beside her stiffens. Sit down. She ignores him and walks toward the corridor. Not fast. Not slow. Purposeful. "Ma'am," the agent says, louder now. "You need to." She stops just short of the group outside imaging. The woman turns sharply. "I told you to stay back." The nurse reaches into her pocket and pulls out her phone. Not to call. To show the screen. A single line of text. Time-stamped. Internal. The woman's eyes flick to it, and change. "What is that?" she asks. The nurse raises her gaze, voice low but clear. "It's a hold code. One you don't issue unless you're prepared to lose authority." The corridor goes quiet. One of the agents swallows. "That code doesn't exist." "It does," the nurse says. "You've just never heard it spoken out loud." The woman's hand tightens into a fist. "You're bluffing." The nurse meets her gaze. Then orders sedation. A long beat passes. The woman looks at the agents. At the patient. At the sealed doors. At the staff watching from a distance. She does nothing. That is the decision. The nurse turns slightly toward the corridor and speaks, not loudly, not dramatically. A short string of numbers. A phrase that sounds procedural, almost mundane. But every agent reacts instantly. Radios come up. Postures shift. One agent straightens, eyes wide. Another steps back as if struck. The woman's face drains of color. "Who authorized that?" she whispers. The nurse lowers her phone. "The same authority that just took this out of your hands." Silence presses in. The patient exhales slowly. "There it is," he says. "I was wondering when you'd stop pretending." The nurse does not look at him. She looks at the woman. "This is the cost," she says quietly. "You keep everyone alive. Or you fight me and explain the consequences later." The woman closes her eyes for a moment. Then she nods once. "Stand down," she says to her team. "All of you." Orders ripple outward. Weapons lower. Voices soften. The building breathes again. The nurse steps back into the shadows of the station, already fading from focus. She has paid the price. Now comes the end. No one argues the order. That is how the woman knows it is real. Agents move with a new precision now, controlled, efficient, stripped of ego. Radios chirp once, then settle into disciplined silence. The contractors retreat without protest. Doors remain sealed, but the tension loosens, just enough to breathe. The nurse does not move. She stands where she is, hands relaxed at her sides, eyes steady. She does not take command. She does not need to. The structure has already shifted around her. The woman in the blazer approaches slowly, as if any sudden movement might break the moment. "You used a bureau-level containment override," she says. "That's not possible from this position." "It is," the nurse replies, "if you're not operating from this position." The woman studies her face again, but this time she isn't searching for weakness. She's confirming reality. "You're embedded," she says quietly. The nurse neither confirms nor denies it. "That code," the woman continues, "it freezes jurisdiction. Forces a full audit. Locks command until verification." "Yes," the nurse says. "You just shut us down." "I shut down escalation," the nurse replies. There's a difference. Behind them, the patient shifts on the stretcher. "She shut down your mistakes," he says calmly. "That's why you felt it." The woman turns sharply. "You don't speak." The patient meets her glare without flinching. "You don't get to pretend you were in control." The woman's jaw tightens, but she says nothing. An agent approaches, voice low. "Ma'am. We've received confirmation. External command acknowledges the code. They're standing by." The woman closes her eyes for a moment, then opens them. "Standing by for what?" The agent hesitates, then looks at the nurse. "For her." That lands harder than any reveal. The corridor feels suddenly smaller. Every movement, every breath, seems louder. Staff watch from a distance, sensing that something fundamental has changed even if they don't understand how. The nurse steps forward at last. "Here's what happens," she says, voice level, unhurried. The patient remains where he is. No sedation. No further movement tonight. "That wasn't the plan," the woman says. "It is now." "And if command objects?" "They won't," the nurse replies. "Not after that code." The woman studies her, then nods slowly. "Then what?" "Then you debrief your team," the nurse says. Quietly. "You log this as a medical delay due to infrastructure instability." "And you?" the woman asks. The nurse pauses. "Just a fraction. I go back to work." The patient lets out a soft breath, something between a laugh and respect. "You really are committed to this role." The nurse turns to him for the first time since speaking the code. "You're alive because I am." He holds her gaze. Then nods once. "Fair." A stretcher is repositioned. 4 lines checked. The patient settles back, compliant now. The threat he posed, whatever it was, has been neutralized not by force, but by structure. The woman steps aside with the nurse, lowering her voice. "They'll ask questions," she says. "Internal ones." "They always do," the nurse replies. "You'll be exposed." The nurse's expression remains calm. "Not tonight." The woman watches her carefully. "You could have taken this over completely." "Yes. But you didn't." "No." "Why?" The nurse considers the question. "Because this building doesn't need another authority figure," she says. "It needs to stay a hospital." The woman absorbs that, then nods once. "I won't mention your name." "You don't have it," the nurse says gently. A faint, reluctant smile crosses the woman's face. "No," she admits. "I don't." The agents begin dispersing, their movements quieter now, more respectful. One of them pauses near the nurse's station, glancing at the nurse with something close to awe. She does not meet his eyes. She returns to her terminal and resumes charting. Time passes. The lockdown lifts in stages. Doors unlock. Alarms silence. The hospital returns to its steady rhythm, as if the crisis were only a brief irregular heartbeat. The patient is transferred later, under different authority, with proper coordination and no raised voices. The woman in the blazer oversees it from a distance, her posture subdued. As the stretcher rolls past, the patient looks at the nurse one last time. "They'll never write this correctly," he says. "No," the nurse replies. "They won't. That bother you?" "No." He nods, satisfied. "Good." When he is gone, the corridor empties completely. The woman approaches one final time. "If I see you again," she says, "it won't be like this." The nurse meets her gaze. "I hope not." The woman turns and walks away. The nurse finishes her notes. Signs off. Washes her hands. Checks on room 318, who is sleeping peacefully, unaware of how close the night came to becoming something else. She adjusts the blanket, smooths it once, then steps back. At the end of the shift, she removes her badge and places it in her locker. The name is still there. The title unchanged. No one stops her. No one thanks her. Outside, dawn is beginning to break. She walks to her car alone, shoulders relaxed, mind already moving on. The building behind her stands intact. That is enough. Morning arrives without ceremony. The hospital does not acknowledge the night it almost fractured. Sunlight creeps through narrow windows, pale and indifferent, illuminating floors that have already been cleaned, hallways that smell faintly of disinfectant and coffee. The nurse returns to the floor one last time before leaving. She does not have to. Her shift ended an hour ago. But habits formed under pressure do not dissolve easily. At the nurse's station, the charge nurse is filing reports. She looks up, relief crossing her face. "Everything okay now?" "Yes," the nurse says. "It's over." The charge nurse exhales. "Good." Administration's already asking questions. "Not about you. About the delays." "That's normal," the nurse replies. She checks the board. Room 327 is empty. The name that never fully appeared is gone entirely, as if it had never been there. A junior nurse approaches hesitantly. "They said the transfer was complicated." The nurse nods. "Most are." No further explanation is requested. Down the hall, security returns to routine patrol. The same guard from earlier nods to her, casual, unaware of how close he came to being in the middle of something far beyond his training. She walks the corridor slowly, listening. The building has returned to its baseline rhythm. Monitors beep. Carts roll. Voices stay low. This is how it should be. In a small administrative office 2 floors down, a quiet conversation takes place. The nurse is not present for it, but its effects ripple outward all the same. A report is rewritten. Language softened. Jurisdiction clarified after the fact. A timeline adjusted by minutes that matter only on paper. Names are omitted where omission is convenient. One name, in particular, does not appear at all. Back on the floor, the woman in the blazer exits an elevator with 2 agents. She looks tired. Older than she did the night before. When she sees the nurse at the end of the hall, she stops. The agents continue without her. The woman approaches alone. "I read the preliminary," she says quietly. "You're not mentioned." The nurse finishes adjusting a medication cart and looks up. "Good. They blamed infrastructure failure." "That happens," the nurse says. "They blamed miscommunication." "That too." The woman studies her. "You saved us from ourselves." The nurse considers the statement, then shakes her head slightly. "You stopped when it mattered." "That's generous." "It's accurate." A pause settles between them. They'll want to talk to you, the woman says. Eventually. Yes, the nurse replies. But not here. The woman nods. No. Not here. She hesitates, then reaches into her jacket and pulls out a card. Plain. No name. Just a number. The nurse does not take it. I already have one, she says. The woman exhales softly, a sound halfway between frustration and respect. Of course you do. She tucks the card away. If we cross paths again, we'll both know why, the nurse finishes. The woman offers a brief nod, then turns and walks toward the exit. The nurse returns to her tasks. She helps with a discharge. Reassures a family member. Answers a call light. When her locker finally opens, she removes her scrubs and folds them neatly. The badge goes in last. Registered nurse. Same as always. As she closes the locker, her phone vibrates once. No text. No call. Just a confirmation tone. She leaves the hospital through the employee entrance, blending into the morning traffic. No one watches her go. No one stops her. In the days that follow, the incident becomes a footnote. A complicated transfer. A delayed operation. A reminder to update emergency protocols. Life moves on. Weeks later, a federal review board signs off on a sealed report. A recommendation is made to maintain a particular embedded asset under current cover. The language is clinical. Detached. Effective. Continue status. Back at the hospital, the nurse returns to night shifts. The same corridors. The same routines. The same quiet competence. Patients heal. Some don't. Work continues. Every so often, a visitor with a badge pauses a little too long when they pass her. Sometimes they recognize something. Sometimes they don't. She never acknowledges it. Authority, when used properly, leaves no mark. And that is how the story ends, not with recognition, not with promotion, not with applause. Just with a building still standing. And a nurse doing her job.